Greetings everyone, hey, a warm welcome, happy 2021. This video is the Psi Global Prediction series that I do using the PSY, which is the Psi cards, and a traditional tarot deck to look into the collective conscious energies of the vibe that is going on around the planet. So this pulls in all of the energetic feeling of the people, but also sometimes Earth's energy feeling as well, and maybe even going out into the cosmic energy fields. We're tapping into, if you like, the morphogenic energy, which is something that we all give off collectively and goes towards the vibes that are traversing the planet. So normally I would do the reading for each month, like January, February, March, so on, a little bit before the beginning of the month, but I have been away. It is summer here, and in New Zealand we're very, very lucky that we have no restrictions on us, so we are able to go about our lives, with full freedom. So we have been on holiday in the middle of our wonderful summer, having a great time, but I'm back now and I'm able to do the predictive energy series. So I thought we would do for January. I know we're already part way through because today is the 7th of January here, and maybe also February at the same time. So I will try to decide which cards are talking about which month and which event. So let's get into it. I will start shuffling with this deck. I really do appreciate your input and helps and insight too. So when you see the video, leaving your comments below and your interpretation of what you feel the cards are saying or offering as well. Here's the first card coming, this one here. It is number 7 of Cups, which is choices, and it also represents quite often deception. The other card out is the 5 of Wands, which also means a little bit of agitation, fighting, standing up for what you believe in, but that there is other competition. Although these people aren't necessarily fighting violently, but it feels as though there is huge competition in who believes what or who wants to have what said. Let's have a look and see what these other two are. The 4 of Wands, which is a good stabilizing card, and the King of Swords, which is an air sign person. Now, today, right now in America, there has been a whole lot of unrest happen over the finishing of these elections that are taking place. So a whole bunch of Trump supporters have gone to the Senate and they have stormed it, apparently. One lady has so far been shot. So there is dissension in the air, and there is disbelief, and there's still discord and disharmony. So lots of dis. It feels as though we're not flowing particularly in any harmony balance. Now, we talk about America a lot because if you don't live in America, and I clearly don't, I live probably about as far away from it as anyone could, but if you live in America, you will understand that your country has this great power that affects the whole of the world. So even if you don't live there, we are affected greatly by what goes on in America, who governs them, and what decisions they make. And this goes down to things such as the economy, but it goes further than that to things like war and tension globally amongst us all. So even if you're not interested in America or the politics, it does affect us all individually at one level or another. So right now, and I think Trump is an air sign person, I think he's a Gemini, so this is him, the King of Swords. He's still holding some sort of energy or reign, and he's sitting there on his throne with his sword stuck up in the air, as if he's saying, stick it all, I'm determined, I'm going to cause a bit of ruction. There is some deceit going on, some hidden agenda. Now, who knows what that is, because he still maintains that there has been a hidden agenda, that there is deceit, that there is fraud, that the elections aren't real, that the counting hasn't been right. They've gone over them many times and they haven't managed to pull up anything visible. So I don't know what it is that this could be showing. But you see the card in the middle here, this hidden figure. And it's a very odd card, and it's an odd depiction. It almost looks like some biblical figure holding his hands out, with this shining bits of light coming off him, as if he is this hidden God or hidden being of promise. But is it promise? Because this is the card of deceit, choices, and not being fully aware of a situation. And we see this snake up here coming down to come into this energy field here of this. So exactly how deep you want to go when you look at this card, and this is one of the original tarot decks, is the Rider-Waite Tarot, one of the more traditional decks. And it's interesting that I pulled it out because I don't use it very often nowadays. But I think this card in particular wants us to look at the imagery that's used for it. There's the snake up here, there's some weird creepy ass looking dragon here, there's some odd castle on a rock, there's something that to me would up here would represent beauty, or maybe like the movie world, so maybe entertainment, movie stars, royalty, celebrities. And then there's treasures here, and then there's a laurel wreath, almost like the Olympics on here. And if you see under it, I can see a skull and flask, or whatever this is, that this wreath and laurel wreath is on. Now the laurel wreath could also even be considered health, possibly. And I can even see the number 7 emblazoned in it in the back there, like right there, looks like a 7. So is there something about, because we're looking into the future here and we're trying to guess what this morphogenic energy field is telling us. Is there something about the laurel wreath or the Olympic Games in the 7th month that goes to crack and ruin, and this looks like a whole bunch of, that looks like a dead skull? This is how you can try and go deep into these cards and feel what the energy fields are trying to tell us. But that card in particular, and it was the first one out, is about deception, lies, folly, but it's also about choices that we have to make. Are we making the right choices? And right now, at the moment, it feels as though some of the choices are wrong. Now, I'm also wondering if this laurel wreath could represent health, and could it be that some of the choices around health concerning the big C, the virus, are we making the wrong choices? Personally, from my perspective, I'm not convinced that the vaccine is going to necessarily be a good thing. Look, it's not that I'm an anti-vaxxer, I'm not, but what I'm trying to say is, from a medical perspective, and I've worked in a lab for many years and I have a medical background, the trials that they've done are not necessarily sufficient, so that's one aspect. But the other is that the new strains that are mutating are possibly not going to be caught or captured by the current vaccine. So there could be, all of these messages here could be in part talking about that aspect of 2021 as well. So I think that number 7 is very important. It was the first card out. It does talk about deception. It talks about choices. It talks about grand folly. It talks about inability to see clearly and to make accurate decisions because we don't have the full vision. We're also being led down a path, so we're not being shown correctly some things. We've talked about him. He could also represent many other global leaders. That it's quite a terse energy that this air sign person can give off, so they can be very abrupt, they can be out there speaking their minds, they can cause tension. So it could be other global leaders as well who want to hold power and dominion, because that is what he is doing here. The 5 we have spoken about. The 5 could also represent a number, as in 5 days, weeks or months, or 5 countries that are together or doing something or being affected one way or another. There is definitely some sort of tension in the air. There's some debate about something. So it could be that people or countries start debating the validity of something, or the use or the choices of something. This one we haven't touched on. It is the good card of the bunch that have turned up. The 4 of Wands often represents happy homes, moving to better situations, warmth, harmony, embellishment, love in particular. So there could be this feeling of love and connection and harmony and balance that is also traversing through the air. It could be representative of a happy event such as the birth of a baby, or a big royal wedding or a celebrity wedding, or just positivity or happiness as well. This card can represent just harmony in the home and feeling safe and feeling grounded. So with those 4 cards, because that's all we'll pick from that deck, let's see what the Psy cards are going to deliver. So this is for January and February as we are in 2021. The collective conscious energy field, or the morphogenic energy field as it's often known. The Sun, that's another pretty good card in terms of the energy. It matches this energy behind it, so we're getting a double fold of some form of positivity and happiness. The Prison card is very interesting. I did think that was going to come out for January. We've had a lot of prison issues here in New Zealand. We've had one of the prisons almost burned to the ground by prisoners who were rioting. And there have been another prison I saw on the news yesterday that prisoners had got out and started burning the place. So I think we will see that many prisoners globally could be in the light somehow or another, in the light over the months of January and February, to do with prison issues that may be cropping up. But that card goes a little bit deeper than that. We'll work into that. What else is here for January and February? Remember, some of these energies will be taking place right now and already have occurred. Work. Oh, the puzzle. The Father, the Death. So we have 6 cards, and I usually only have 6 when I deal with the Psy cards. They're quite intense anyhow. So if you've been following me over the last few years of doing these, you'll know that one of the probably least appealing cards that come out is called the Puzzle card. And the reason is because it represents an enigma or a puzzle that we can't understand. So the puzzle has come out for these 2 months, as it so turns out. Let's just work backwards from the beginning one. So the Sun can represent solar activity, and we are moving into a new solar cycle this year, and I think it's solar cycle 25. So we've been through a period of minor solar ejections off the Sun, and the Sun plays a very big role in how the Earth is activated and how people on the Earth are activated. So when it goes into its solar sleep times, we see less perturbations coming towards Earth, so that's less magnetic kind of interaction. Wakes up and starts sending its solar bursts or flares towards us, then we find ourselves with more magnetic interaction, and we can see more things like the aurora borealis or the magnetosphere being affected. This can also be shown in signs of increasing amounts of earthquake activity, volcanic activity. People get affected as well at emotional levels and also pain levels. They can find that they receive more headaches or more bone pains, things along those lines. So the Sun is waking up and we are jumping into this new solar cycle. So that's part of it. It can also represent intense heat around the planet, and we're experiencing a very hot summer here, even in New Zealand. So I think this could represent for the Southern Hemisphere great hot summers or hot temperatures. It may even also be up through the Northern Hemisphere, meaning that it may not be as cold as it normally is. Now, I'm not talking about things like the severe snowstorms that Japan and America have recently had, because that's what we call climate extremes. But overall, your temperatures may be a wee bit warmer than normal. We also see crops here, so crops can be affected in these 2 months, meaning crop losses, and this could be due to fire or flooding, things like that. Crops being affected. This is in slips too, like landslides. We see the children around the maypole. So I often think children are affected one way or another when this card comes out, and oftentimes not in the best manner. So children could well be in the firing line, for want of a better word, and we see a child here in the Father card as well, so I think that implication could be quite strong. Now we come to the next one, prison, which I've mentioned briefly. We've had some prison riots and issues, fires, burnings here in New Zealand. There are some others that are happening, so this could become prevalent during the 2 months. But we also see the sun rays again. So there's more about the sun, and the card that was next to it was the sun. So there's something about enlightenment or rays or vision or seeing or being impacted by this intensity of the sun's energy or what it is doing or giving to us. The prison card also feels like being locked down, so shut away, locked up, locked down. Now locked down can refer to not being heard, so not being able to speak your words, lack of freedom, lack of ability to feel freedom. And this could mean from a political agenda, from countries being in lockdown, interestingly enough. So I think this card has taken on a new meaning since the lockdowns have occurred. And we see that the UK has just gone into lockdown probably for the whole of January and February. And I think a lot of the people will be feeling like this. So it looks as though that will still be prevalent, and maybe more countries end up going into that phase as well. The work card is a difficult one to try and analyse. It sometimes references work as an employment, and that there could be issues around big companies maybe. Some of them may falter. There might be implications to do with companies that aren't surviving, especially over this last year of COVID issues. It can also represent big wheels turning, so sometimes ships, boats, buses, planes. There could be issues with some of these vehicles. And the way they passenger people around or freight goods around the world. And I don't know why, but I'm looking at this card and I'm seeing like a boat sinking, like the Titanic type thing. Boats are sinking, of course. The whole cruising world has sunk, really, due to the big sea, the big virus issue. So they have financial troubles, and it's literally a disintegrated business at the moment. The other aspect of this is also time wave anomalies. So I often find when this card comes out, we experience dual time or time wave anomalies or timeline changes. Now, some of you will be aware of what I'm referencing here and others may not, but for your own personal aspect, keep an eye out for things that go wrong with your clocks in your home or your watches, or things that you thought you'd seen or heard or experienced, but then you didn't, or then it happens again. It's that type of thing that can happen when the work card turns up. Deja vu, I guess you could call it. Let's come to the Father card. This is a card of war and warring and tension and fighting. He's also pointing up to the skies, so it can reference things like asteroids or meteorites or things coming down from the sky. So I'm also thinking of rocket launches. So you know how we're launching so many satellites into space these days, and Elon Musk launches a lot. There could be issues with some launches, some rocket launches that go off. Some of them may have complications, so they won't all go smoothly. He is teaching this younger boy archery and how to fight, so there is warring that goes on. Sometimes this references families and children involved in fighting. Sometimes the children are hurt and maimed, so it could be like rockets coming in and firing. So this could involve places like the Middle East. It doesn't have to be just the Middle East. So it could also be terrorist type activity as well. Not the best card. This one unfortunately speaks for itself. It is often mass deaths, and it can be at night. It can be crushings or buildings that people are crushed in or stuck in or lost in, or where people are trying to dig them out of something. Yeah, I don't think we need to say too much more. It can happen at night. Volcanoes or mountains, things like mudslides, or where cities or little villages are taken over with mudslides. We've seen some of them already in January through, I think it's Switzerland, through the snow that went through a city. So we come to the last one, the puzzle. I don't know why it's quite devised. It's the only card in the deck that you would turn on its side to actually see the picture properly. So the word is written this way, and then the picture you have to look at this way. So that whole thing is a puzzle straight away. There's not a lot we can necessarily tell from the card, except that there seems to be some figure of royalty sitting there with ambiguity or a look of disdain, or, you know, like, well, whatever, holding a key, and there are two doors behind the person and there is one key. So it's almost like we go back to that very first card that was choices or options, and you're not being given much information as to which choice or option is the best one here. It's as if you have to make your mind up, but it's almost like, do you take A or B? And if you open door A, it might be the door to implosion and corruption and into the rabbit hole. But if you open door B, it might be the door into enlightenment and awareness and understanding. So the puzzle card leaves us with a feeling of sourness, like a taste that we can't describe because we don't know where we're going and we don't know what's behind the doors. So it leads us to understand that there is something that is happening right now that is a complete enigma and puzzle, and that we are not being allowed to view the reasons behind it or the outcome for its pathway forward. And as I say, it comes back to this card, the very first card. It talks to us about a hidden agenda, or something hidden, or something being kept from us. But perhaps if we open the right door, whichever one it may be, we could find the answers. And we may not be that excited about the answers, but often when you find the truth, you are then able to move forward regardless, and then you move forward in a different way, or you move forward with just a feeling of, well, at least we know, okay, we've cast the stone, let's now go forward and make the change. Sometimes in the past I have thought this bunch of leaves or patterns down here looks a little bit like a maple leaf, and I have sometimes thought of Canada in reference to the puzzle card, but I'm not sure if that is a true analogy of the card or not. So there you go, guys. The overall background cards that came out aren't too bad. I've seen worse, but when the puzzle adds to the picture, I think it makes things a lot more ambiguous, and it just makes it a lot more, it's out of our hands. It's almost like this is written and something is being formed at this very moment in time, and we're not necessarily privy to change it, and we're not necessarily meant to have access to the information at the moment because it's not ours to play with. Sometimes that's the feeling you get when you have this puzzle card. So I do look forward to your comments. I love it when you all put your input in, what you think of the cards, what you think of the messages, and you know what intuitive thoughts come to you as you're listening to it and watching it. So thank you for joining, everyone. I do wish you a safe and happy April, a safe and happy January and February of 21. If you're involved in any tensions or political, problems, please be safe, and let's just move through this and get to where we're headed, which is the rest of the year. Be safe, much love, namaste.